Playing in the NBA is going to be entirely different for you, though. You'll be playing for the first time where they have the man-for-man rule. They can't zone you anymore. How do you feel about that?
Actually, that makes me quite happy. I've always been zoned all through basketball, even high school, college, all with the exception of the 1 year I played with the Trotters. And I'm really looking forward to the 24-second rule under one man.
Alf, the year was 1961, and pro basketball still felt like a sport building itself in real time. The NBA only had 9 teams, believe it or not. Television coverage was limited. Most players still traveled commercially, sometimes even by bus. Baseball dominated the American sports landscape. Football was rapidly growing, and basketball cards were almost an afterthought. Then Fleer stepped in.
We got a 1991 Fleer! Make sure to keep this from falling here.
For basketball card collectors, the 61 Fleer basketball set is one of the defining vintage releases in the entire hobby. It is not just important because of the Hall of Fame names inside it, it matters because for an entire generation of legends, this became their cardboard identity. When collectors think of Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Jerry West, Oscar Robertson, Elgin Baylor, or Bob Cousy, in vintage form, this is the set that comes to mind first. And unlike many later basketball releases packed with hundreds of cards and endless parallels, we can all relate, the 61 Fleer set was compact, focused, and loaded with stars. Every single card mattered in this set. Today we're going to go through the complete history of the 1961 Fleer basketball set. We'll cover the checklist, the rookie cards, the biggest stars, what America looked like in 1961, and how come this set disappeared after just one great release? Why collectors still chase these cards more than 60 years later. Let's take a look at the basketball card landscape before 1961. To understand why this set matters, you have to understand how little basketball card history existed before it. Basketball cards in the 1940s and 50s were inconsistent, scattered. You had regional issues, oddball food promotions, and a few small releases, but nothing that felt nationally important in the same way Topps Baseball did.
We got a 1990 Topps vending box!
The last major basketball set before 1961 was the 1957 Topps basketball release. That set introduced rookie cards of Bill Russell and Bob Cousy, among others. But after 1957, basketball cards essentially vanished from the mainstream hobby for several years. So by 1961, collectors had gone 4 years without a nationally distributed basketball card product. The gap is important because when Fleer entered the market in 1961, they were not competing against an established basketball card industry. They were rebuilding one basically from scratch. It was a huge opportunity for Fleer. In the early 1960s, Fleer was trying to compete with Topps across multiple sports and entertainment categories. Fleer did not have the same dominance in baseball because Topps largely controlled player licensing there. Basketball became an opening for them. The NBA was growing in popularity thanks to emerging television exposure and a collection of larger-than-life stars. Wilt Chamberlain, obviously the big one.
Well, we're mighty happy to have you in Philadelphia. If you're coming here actually and taking a cut in salary from what you made over this last year with the Harlem Globetrotters. How about that? How come the cut in salary?
Actually, I tell you, Jim, I always wanted to play in the NBA and play with my hometown Philadelphia. Made me quite happy, so I had to sacrifice a few things, and also I have a chance to be home with my family. So I think in the long run, I'll come out a lot better, even though I took a financial deficit.
Was redefining stats. Bill Russell was leading a dynasty in Boston. The Lakers were becoming nationally relevant, and college basketball was booming. Fleer recognized there was finally enough star power to support a major basketball card release again. So in 1961, they released a 66-card set. Yep, that's it, just 66 cards that would become one of the most important basketball products ever made. The set had a total of 66 cards, 44 player cards, 11 in-action cards. I own one of these in-action cards, 11 playoff highlight and NBA event cards. The cards measured approximately 2.5 by 3.5 inches and feature bright color photography with clean vintage design elements, and they still look really sharp today. Very condition sensitive, of course. One thing collectors immediately notice about the set is how concentrated the talent is. There's Hall of Famers everywhere. Because the NBA was so small at the time, Fleer could focus heavily on star players instead of filling the checklist with role players and filler cards like a lot of what we see today. That concentration of elite talent is one of the reasons collectors love the set so much. Let's talk about the big rookie cards. The centerpiece of the entire set, of course, is card number 8. It is the Wilt Chamberlain, Wilt the Stilt rookie card. But before we talk about Wilt Chamberlain, we've got to give a shout out to our video sponsor, Card Trade. If you're like me, you're hesitant on buying cards directly from people, private sales through sites like Instagram. Like, I don't know these people. What if there was a third-party service that could help us out with transactions like this? Enter Card Trade. Card Trade now offering a free 7-day trial to try this sucker out for a limited time only. You're automatically entered into their 2025 Topps Chrome NFL Hobby Box giveaway featuring a box worth over $800. They act as a go-between. They hold payment until the transaction is complete. They protect both the buyers and the sellers. Honestly, if you buy or sell cards online, this app is a complete no-brainer. We've all heard the horror stories, scams on Facebook, Instagram, Discords, cards they never show up, or getting hit with chargebacks on high-end slabs. It happens more often than we would like to believe. And marketplaces, they aren't much better. Sell an $800 card on eBay, you could lose around $100 in fees. Moving a $5,000 grail, yeah, that's hundreds gone instantly in fees. Card Trade can help fix this. Sellers on Card Trade, you're dealing with ID verified users. There are 0 transaction fees and no random burner accounts that are wasting your time. For buyers, your payment is protected until the card arrives, and if something goes wrong, Card Trade Scam Protection can reimburse you for up to $5,000 in card value. So if you're serious about collecting, buying, or selling cards online, definitely check this out. There's a few different plans to choose from, but there's also that free 7-day trial, and when you sign up, you get entered into the 2025 Topps Chrome NFL Hobby Box giveaway. I have a QR code that's floating around up here as well. Easy, just click on that. It'll take you right to the app. Or you can go directly to the website at cardtrade.com. I'll have a link down in the video description as well as a pinned comment to help take you there quickly. All right, back to the show. For many collectors, this is one of the most iconic basketball cards ever produced. By 61, Wilt Chamberlain was already changing professional basketball. He had entered the NBA in 1959 and immediately became the most physically dominant player the league had ever seen. During the 1961-62 season, the same season this product was released, Wilt averaged over 50 points per game and scored 100 points in a single basketball game. Even today, those numbers sound unrealistic. The rookie card itself has become legendary in the hobby because of several factors. You've got the historical importance. You've got massive player popularity, extremely difficult centering on this card, print defects galore and chipping, as well as strong long-term demand. High-grade examples are incredibly difficult to find. Collectors who have handled vintage cards for years will tell you the same thing. Finding a centered 61 Fleer Wilt Chamberlain with clean edges and strong registration is not easy. That scarcity at the high end helped turn the card into a true grail piece. Next up, it's the NBA logo man himself, Jerry West. Yes, Jerry West rookie card is in this set. Love this card. Card number 43 features the rookie card of the man himself, Jerry West. Collectors often associate West with the NBA logo itself, but in 1961, he was still entering the league after a dominant college career at West Virginia. Little did people know back then that West would go on to become an NBA champion, a finals MVP, one of the greatest guards in league history, and a legendary executive later on with the Lakers. His rookie card has steadily climbed in importance over the years because of his overall basketball legacy and the clean visual appeal of the card itself. The colors just pop on these cards. Next up, the Big O, Oscar Robertson. Yes, Oscar Robertson's rookie card is in this set. It is card number 36. At the time, Robertson was viewed as one of the most complete players basketball had ever seen. He could do it all. He could score, rebound, and distribute at elite levels before the modern triple-double even existed. For decades, averaging a triple-double for a season seemed untouchable, largely because Oscar had set the standard so early. His rookie card remains one of the anchors of this set. Elgin Baylor and, of course, Bill Russell. They were already established stars, both of these guys, by 1961. Russell's Celtics were building one of the greatest dynasties in sports history. Baylor, Elgin Baylor, was redefining offensive creativity and athleticism. Both cards are highly collected today, especially, of course, in the higher grades if you can find them. Russell's card carries additional historical significance because of his overall role in NBA history, the civil rights history, as well, of course, as the championship culture that was established there in Boston. Vintage basketball collectors often describe Russell's cards as essential pieces of hobby history, not just sports collectibles. His autograph cards also go for tremendous sums. Bob Cousy and the Old Guard. Bob Cousy represents an earlier generation of basketball greatness. By 1961, Cousy was already one of the sport's biggest stars and one of the faces responsible for helping professional basketball gain credibility in the 1950s. His presence in the set creates an interesting bridge between the basketball eras. That's part of what makes this release so compelling historically. You've got established legends from the 1950s, peak dynasty players, transformational young stars, and of course, future icons all appearing together in one beautiful 66-card set. It almost feels like a snapshot of the NBA changing generations in real time. Let's talk about the in-action cards. These are pretty rad. One of the most underrated aspects of the 61 Fleer set is the in-action subset. These cards attempted to capture movement and gameplay at a time when sports photography technology was still relatively limited compared to modern standards. Collectors today often appreciate these cards because they feel different from the standard pose portraits common in vintage releases. The Wilt Chamberlain in-action card is especially popular, and yes, it can get very expensive. In many ways, these cards helped introduce a more dynamic visual style to basketball cards, but always came with conditional problems, which makes the high grades popular for collectors to chase. Vintage collectors know this set can be brutal in high grade. They're always off-centered, always. Several issues constantly appear, like I just said, off-centering, print snow, chipping, rough edges, and of course, like with most all vintage cards, you have registration issues. You might have wax stains and surface wear. It just happens over the decades. The bright colored borders show flaws very easily. Because of that, PSA and SGC population reports become extremely important for serious collectors chasing high-end, even mid-end copies for that matter, and trying to figure out price points. A PSA 8 or PSA 9 example of the key rookie cards becomes exponentially more rare than the lower grade copies, and that scarcity creates some of the strongest vintage basketball prices in the hobby that have continued to grow here, especially over the last 5 to 7 years. So speaking of the historical context behind the 1961 Fleer set, what was happening in America in 1961? Part of the appeal of this set, as well as a lot of these vintage card sets, is understanding the world that they came from. 1961 was a fascinating year in American culture. JFK, John F. Kennedy, had just become President of the United States.
For I have sworn before you and Almighty God the same solemn oath our forebears prescribed nearly a century and 3/4 ago. The world is very different now, for man holds in his mortal hands the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life. And yet the same revolutionary beliefs for which our forebears fought are still at issue around the globe.
Yes, the Cold War, unfortunately, was escalating, leading up to the Cuban Missile Crisis a couple years later. The space race was becoming a national obsession after Yuri Gagarin became the first human in space. Television ownership was exploding across America, changing how sports and entertainment were being consumed. In music, Elvis Presley remained enormously popular. Motown Records was rising, along with early rock and roll, all of it evolving very rapidly. At movie theaters, audiences were watching films like The Guns of Navarone, Breakfast at Tiffany's, and West Side Story. Sports themselves were transforming into bigger commercial entertainment products thanks to television rights. Baseball still dominated nationally, of course, but basketball was slowly starting to build momentum thanks to television exposure and stars with recognized personalities. And all of this timing was great because the 1961 Fleer set arrived right as professional basketball was beginning to look less regional, more national, and eventually, as we know, global. With all this positive momentum, why did the set end so quickly? One of the most interesting parts of the story is that Fleer did not continue producing annual basketball sets afterward. There would not be another major nationally distributed basketball card release until Topps returned in 1969, a few years later. That means the 61 Fleer set became the defining basketball card release of that entire decade. For many all-time legends, collectors had essentially one major vintage card option for years. That scarcity added enormous long-term importance to the set. Imagine if modern collectors only had one flagship NBA release covering an entire generation of stars. That's essentially what happened here. So these are the reasons that this set continues to command respect from longtime collectors. You've got the historical importance, the rookie card home of some of the greatest players in all of basketball history, That concentrated star power means the checklist is loaded, not a lot of filler, no games, just all the good stuff in that 66 card set. The photography, the colors, the simple layouts still hold up, look great, decades later, remaining very popular. The set captures a turning point in professional basketball before the league became the global giant it is today. Of course, that 1961 Fleer set came out, and then Fleer didn't return for 25 years to bring out 86 Fleer, which of course is an all-time set in our hobby. When collectors hold these cards, they're holding pieces from an era before million-dollar sneaker deals, before social media, before massive TV contracts, and before basketball became a year-round entertainment machine. The cards feel connected to the roots of the NBA itself as the league was growing. And that is the legacy of the 1961 Fleer basketball set. More than 60 years later, the 61 Fleer basketball set still sits near the top of the vintage basketball mountain. The Wilt Chamberlain rookie card remains one of the hobby's most recognizable cards, followed by the Jerry West and Oscar Robertson rookies that remain foundational pieces for vintage NBA collectors. Hall of Fame depth gives the set long-term strength that few releases frankly can match. And maybe most importantly, the set represents a moment when basketball cards still felt incredibly small compared to where the hobby would eventually go. There was no parallels, no refractors, no serial numbering, no manufactured scarcity, just a compact checklist featuring some of the most important players the sport has ever seen. For longtime collectors, that simplicity is part of the big appeal. The 1961 Fleer basketball set, it never needed any gimmicks. Its history already did the work for it. Friends, thank you very much for joining me for another Sports Card Dad video. Make sure to have an amazing day ahead. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.